So this is part two of an interview with James West regarding a diet he's starting. He actually developed this diet himself. Now, there's some pros and cons to that. One of the things we need to realize, maybe the biggest pro to any diet that you start yourself, is that if it's something you've developed, something you're comfortable with, it's much more likely to be something that you can live with long term. Now, there's no diet that does you any good if you don't follow it. So the key thing here is following the diet. If you read Jenny Rule's book, Diet 101, the research is out there. It's really clear. The diet that works matters less about, I hate to say it, I mean, because I'm a low carb guy, but the macronutrients, micronutrients, all of the other things really don't matter as much as the key thing. Can you keep it up? So we're going to, in the second part of this interview with James, we're going to talk a little bit deeper about classifying his diet. It does appear that it's probably more low carb than many of us had thought in the beginning, because he did mention honey at one point. He put some clarification around that. He also talks about what he's thinking about doing for documenting the impact, looking at bio indicators, things like that. Now, again, just as a reminder, James is not just your typical patient. He's someone who's got a significant history in terms of starting up a genetics lab, a couple of companies associated with managed care. Bottom line, what were you thinking when you developed it, and how would you classify it?
Well, what would work, is really not to be smart. But for instance, carbs, I still try to maintain very low carbs. The honey, for instance, very little teaspoon, tablespoon in the afternoon. But I try to keep my total carb intake at about 5%. So if I looked at the last 24 hours, during that 24-hour cycle, the only thing that I could recognize, although there's sneaky things maybe here and there, but the only thing I could recognize that would have added carbs would have been that honey.
That honey. Okay. Yeah. So actually it is low carb. I thought so. Thank you. Go ahead.
No sweets. I don't do any sweets, no breads, no milk. Those are the carbs. The things that were killing me, I think, were the dark chocolate. That dark chocolate's funny. It's dark chocolate, so I can eat it. Probably not 2 bags of it, but it was dark chocolate, so I'll be heart healthy. But so I just cut out all of those things. I know what I like that has carbs in it, and so bread, milk, and sweet. So I just cut those out. So I do try to keep it low carb, not no carb. I don't go grab a steak and chew on it. But if you look at my vegetables, I'm one of those odd people that love Brussels sprouts and love spinach. So the last few days I had a salad that was some cheese on a bed of spinach, and so I'll mix it a few carbs. I'll sprinkle a couple of cranberries on there just to give me something, very little. But other than that, just grilled chicken on spinach and some cheese, and gonna go at it. Drink a lot of water. Coffee and water are some of the 2 things I drink.
I've been looking at the text you sent me, and yeah, it does. As I go back and review that text and I listen to you, it's got a lot more low carb components than I thought. Right. So I do think that's it's got a lot of low carb to it. It's clearly got some time restricted, or what a lot of people are calling intermittent fasting, if you're not eating till lunchtime.
Right. And today we took a break in between these 2 sessions. You'll notice my background's a little different. You and I both had to jump on some calls. So it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon today before I ate my first morsel of food. And so I went from last night at 7 till today at 3. So I did more than the typical 16 hours. I did 18 hours, I guess it was. And was hungry, but it was I was so busy, I didn't have the luxury of going to eat. It's funny, once you mentally make that shift, for me at least, once I make that shift to know there's a reason behind it, I'm not missing anything. I just eat because I need the fuel to finish my day out. And you might tell me, I find if I put a cup of coffee in the middle of it, like 11 o'clock, I grabbed a cup of coffee at 11. That really helped move me over a little bit.
Did you have anything in that coffee? Any sugar, milk, anything like that?
It's Frappuccino, frozen mocha with caramel and some whipped cream. Oh, what was the problem?
Oh yeah, well, yeah, that's a meal in itself.
Had stevia. I put stevia in it.
Yeah, it was caffeinated, right?
Yes.
Caffeine does have some appetite suppressant activity. Also, just anything giving you a jolt helps slow down the appetite as well. So I think there's some of that.
What are your thoughts on stevia? I know what your thoughts are on. We've talked before about sugar substitutes like rat poison, but saccharin and other things. But what are your thoughts on the stevia? You see it advertised a lot. We grow it. In fact, my wife and I grow some stevia in our herb garden and grind it up and use it sometimes. But this was out of a pack. But what are your thoughts of stevia?
I think it's a great question. I think there's moderate to ample evidence that the other sugar substitutes do have some negative impact. And long term, if you can stay away from it, it's worthwhile. I don't think there's enough out there yet regarding stevia to send up any warning flags. The other thing I would say, though, even with the other ones where there is some evidence that there's challenges there, they're a heck of a lot better than adding sugar to a bunch of drinks. So, you start thinking about relative safety. They're a heck of a lot safer than, even the non-stevia sweeteners are a heck of a lot safer than drinking a soda, a regular non-diet soda.
I'm one of those individuals. I'm old South. I don't have a problem giving up Coca-Colas. I hardly ever drink them anyway, or the diet formula. What's tough for a lot of us is giving up sweet tea. It's just, I think it's just a cultural thing. A glass of sweet tea goes with everything. And so, right now I drink water and coffee. I'm perfectly fine.
I'm from sweet tea country too, and occasionally I'll have to just take some stevia sweetened sweet tea. I wanted to just finish up with a couple of different components. One is a comment. I asked you about how you'd classify your diet, and you said the one that works. I did want to get a comment in. For those viewers that haven't read the book, Low Carb Diet 101, or Diet 101 by Jenny Ruhl, Ruhl. She does a great job of summarizing the diets that have come out. A lot of them have been done especially recently. It turns out that, who was the guy that died? He was it Atkins? Yeah. When he did, he was a cardiologist, but he had a significant amount of a significant net worth associated with the Atkins diet. He put a few million of that into research grants for diets. Prior to that, people were very scared of low carb diets. They thought it could cause problems. Actually, what they found out is that they don't. Not even cholesterol problems. Even all that eating all that meat fat and all that other all those fats didn't cause a problem. What they did find though is this, and that gets to your point, James. The best diet is the one that works for you, the one that you can maintain. So I think it's a great thing you're designing your own diet, you're designing your own structure around it. And I think there's a lot of evidence that supports what you're doing. The last comment I wanted to ask you, now you and I have mentioned, given your lab background, you were thinking about documenting some of this in terms of your own biomarkers. I talked with a dentist, actually Doug Thompson. You know Doug.
I do.
Wellness Dentistry Network founder. He recently did the FMD, the Proline diet, found some significant improvements in cholesterol values and other biomarkers. Have you thought about what sort of biomarkers you're going to look at?
Yeah, I'll ask my physician. Well, that would just throw it back to you. But I'm thinking, here are the things I'd be interested in from a study perspective. Not that I'm not any more than N of one, but obviously your cholesterols and your blood sugar levels. So my glucose and my A1C, see how that's impacted. I'd be interested to look at my HSCRP. How much inflammatory impact will a diet have from start to finish? I don't think it'll affect my electrolytes, although it maybe affect some of my liver enzymes. I sometimes have elevated liver enzymes, so it'd be interesting to see does that, because one of the things you've put me on to look at is, am I insulin resistant? So I might try to do a glucose challenge on the front end and see what it looks like on the back end. So those are the things I was thinking about doing. See what impact it.
I think you're looking at the right stuff. And I think with most of these